Hello, great to have you with me, Phil Cleary, for episode 5 of my Cleary Independent Memorable People and Places series, coming to you from Melbourne, Australia. In this ANZAC Day special, I'll provide a few snippets from my upcoming documentary, a wartime documentary I've called Gladys and the Brunswick Boys. In 1940, my grandfather Ted Dorian, his brother Roy, and their good mates Michael Parlin and Billy Ottaway set sail for the Middle East and the war against Hitler's Nazi army and Mussolini's fascists. My grandmother, Gladys Dorian, wasn't happy about her husband setting off for a foreign war, and she was even less happy when she discovered he'd been captured in Greece in 1941 by the Germans and transferred to a POW camp in Austria. With 2 young children to look after and a demanding job making rope at Miller's Rope Works, life during the war was tough for Gladys. Over the past 10 years, I've made a succession of trips to the village of Lysac and the town of Wolfsburg, where Ted was a POW, and to Greece and Crete. I now know the exact location of this group POW photo taken above the Lysac POW camp. When I discovered that this was the place where that photograph was taken, here under the Dolomite Mountains and the mighty Spitzkofel, it was a breathtaking moment. I also know that Ted Dorian and Michael Parlin escaped from Lysac, only to be recaptured and taken back to the major camp at Wolfsburg, and were there when it was bombed by American planes, accidentally, they said, in December 1944. This bombing, I now know, was the genesis of the fatal post-traumatic stress Ted Dorian and Michael Parlin endured after the war. In 1994, former prisoner of war Billy Ottaway told me the incredible story of how he watched an American airman jump from his burning plane and crash to the ground when his parachute didn't open near Lysac in June 1944. That airman was 21-year-old Vincent Marimpietri, who was buried by Ottaway and other POWs and is remembered on a hill near where he died.
I am Roland Domanik from Lienz. I was a former school teacher for biology, physics and chemistry. One of the bombers crashed on 6 June 1944. 9 of the crew survived and parachuted positively. One of the crew, Marimpietri Vincent, he fell down as a stone because his parachute didn't open.
I also now know that one of the prisoners in the camp, Alan Goyen, had entered into relationships with several local Austrian women. While Goyen was putting himself and those women in danger, the Gestapo was rounding up members of the Austrian resistance, women included, and executing them. In October 2025, I was invited to talk about my grandfather's time in the Lysac camp at an event dedicated to the brave men and women of the Austrian resistance.
Mit dem Phil Cleary aus Australien.
Roland Domanik and I first met in 2017 when I was researching a project called Gladys and the Brunswick Boys. My grandfather, Ted Dorian, had his 27th birthday in Lysac in December 1941. He was a prisoner of the German Reich. He was a prisoner in Lysac with 2 of his best friends, Billy Ottaway and his good friend Michael Parlin. Michael Parlin came from the same street. He was a boxing man, a fighting man, a tough man. He had a broken nose from fighting. They were captured on the Corinth Canal and at Kalamata in Greece. They were transported from Wolfsburg to here, Lysac and Lienz. Gottfried Kelser stood here with me last year as we talked about these brave people who fought the Nazis in 1941, 2, 3, 4 and 5 in and around Lienz. Rosa Stolbaumer from Silian, Maria Pescola. So many great women were part of the campaign to fight Nazism. And my grandfather paid the price for fighting Nazism. He died aged 49 years from post-traumatic stress. His other good mate, Michael Parlin, the tough man, died aged 46. And the other man, Billy Ottaway, who went on to live a longer life into his 80s, was unwell. So I think we are all united in the campaign to stop people like Hitler, wherever they happen to be in the world. Here we are today, remembering these brave Austrians, men and women, who took a stand against Hitler. While my grandfather Ted Dorian wasn't able to be evacuated from Greece in April 1941, his brother Roy was lucky enough to escape to Crete. When the Germans invaded Crete in late May 1941, Roy would make one of the most miraculous escapes made by any Australian soldier. On the night of the 1st of June, he and 3 other Australians rowed 11 hours across the sea from the port of Sparkia to the island of Gavdos before making their way to Egypt in an invasion barge. It was a remarkable story. Unfortunately, Roy's luck ran out when he stood on a landmine while trying to save a comrade in Papua New Guinea in August 1943. In a letter home 6 months earlier, he told his son Desmond, "Jim Park, the full-back for Carlton, was killed near me. Poor old Jim died like a proper soldier, leading his platoon." Jim Park was a member of Carlton's 1938 premiership team. In the same letter, Roy Dorian described how Frank Lindsay, the ex-heavyweight champion of Victoria, had been killed by a Japanese sniper. There you have it, a snippet from Gladys and the Brunswick Boys. While researching this documentary, I've unearthed so many fascinating stories and secrets. But none of this can camouflage the pain and sorrow of war. So on this ANZAC Day in 2026 in Melbourne, I'm standing with those people across the world who want to see an end to Donald Trump's illegal bombardment of Iran and the pain and sorrow he is causing across the world.